Welcome to the Sacnus Day of Initiatives webinar series. Today's webinar is a day in life, a panel discussion with Taino STEM students from the University of Puerto Rico. My name is Dr. Darryl Monto, and I am the Sacnus Day of Initiatives manager. I'm an enrolled member of the Kiowa tribe of Oklahoma and also of Apache and Comanche descent. We are just coming off of our 2021 Sacnus National Diversity in STEM NDI STEM Digital Conference. For those who are able to participate, we hope that you enjoyed the conference. I also want to share that November is Native American Heritage Month. This month, Sacnus will be celebrating and acknowledging the contributions and achievements of our Native American and Indigenous people. Sacnus respects and appreciates the diversity within our tribal nations that include rich and beautiful culture, traditions, and languages. We encourage our community to join us in celebrating and invite you to attend the events we have scheduled in November. For more information, visit the calendar of events we have posted in the membership portal, and be sure and check out our social media posts this month. I want to take a brief moment to welcome our new members to Sacnus. If I can get this right. Well, welcome our new members to Sacnus who are joining us for the first time. We are a fully inclusive organization dedicated to achieving true diversity in STEM, where the field, including leadership positions, reflects the demographics of the population. As the nation's largest multicultural and multidisciplinary STEM diversity organization in the country, Sacnus creates space where all members, volunteers, and partners feel they belong and can embrace their intersectional identities. A Sacnus membership gives you access to a welcoming community of like-minded students and professionals from all STEM disciplines, including the opportunity to connect with one of our 118 chapters across the country. Eligibility to apply for programs specifically for each stage of your education or career, exclusive opportunities like jobs, internships, and more from our partners, access to our on-demand video library and live webinars, and an opportunity to raise your voice for true diversity and inclusion in STEM. We're always welcoming new members. Feel free to share our information with your network, sacnus.org/memberships. Now let's get started. I would like to introduce our panel members for today. First, I will begin with Alejandra. Alejandra Chang Colon was raised in San Juan, Puerto Rico. Alejandra is an MSc candidate in the Animal Science Department at the University of Puerto Rico campus. She is curious about the interactions with the natural world and with the passion for animals and has had a passion for animals from a very young age. She completed her undergraduate studies at the University of Puerto Rico, finishing a dual bachelor's degree in animal science and industrial microbiology. Alejandra is a small ruminants project team member at the University of Puerto Rico College of Agricultural Science and currently works as a graduate research assistant in ovine andrology, focusing on growth and sexual development under humid tropical conditions. Under Dr. John Fernandez Ancleve, Alejandra also works as a teaching assistant and has developed a passion for science communication. Committed to making science accessible to everyone and empowering future female scientists to follow their curiosity. She joined the Women in Ag Science Executive Board in 2019. Thank you for being with us today, Alejandra. Jonathan Aguirre Santiago is a fifth year studying chemistry at the University of Puerto Rico. He has been involved with different student organizations such as Chemistry Circle, Sacnus, and Future Pharmacists Association. He is the president of the Future Pharmacists Association, and his organization has provided voluntary service in different charity events to help people who suffer from muscular dystrophy and continue to be very involved in their community. Jonathan has been a Sacnus member for 2 years, and he was able to present and share research he conducted at Tufts University. Jonathan is proud of his Taino heritage and acknowledges it is present in many aspects of his daily life. Right. And with that, we will get started with our little question and answer that I have for you both. So again, thank you both for being here with us today. And let's see. I do have several questions that I prepared and ready to share with both of you, and we'll get going with those. So, first question. What is it like being a STEM student in Puerto Rico?
Well, I'll start. It's very fascinating, since we have specifically in what is natural science, we have rainforest, we have dry forest, we have 10 out of 12 soil orders. So it's really fun in that sense, but it's also very difficult at times. That's not particularly ideal at times. We don't, at least I could speak firsthand about the experience studying at the University of Puerto Rico, which is a state university. We do have other universities that are private universities, which I do know they have the economic resources of a private institution versus, also Jonathan studies at a different campus of the same university system. So we do have a lot of issues when it comes to that. We may not have as many resources. There's a lot of do-it-yourself scenarios where you have to teach yourself things because maybe you don't have the accessibility for a lab technician all the time, or you don't have monetary resources for certain materials that you might need. Things have to be ordered months in anticipation. When you start your thesis project, for example, you need to have all of your materials set. It's not as easy as I know it might be in continental mainland US to maybe do things a little bit more as you go. So in that sense, it's a lot more difficult. It's also a little bit difficult in the sense of not only the challenges that we can face through our studies, while we're trying to get our degrees, but the uncertainty of what can we do after, because economically the island's not doing so great. So the opportunities are not particularly abundant. So we do have to work through that uncertainty and the reality that most of us might have to leave the island if we want to pursue our other degrees or other career opportunities, because they're just not available to us here, which is very sad. We as Puerto Ricans, we're very close knit to our families, to our culture as a people. So I'm sure we don't want to leave. Most of us would like to stay. So that's a little bit difficult in that sense, but I think it's still very rewarding to be able to, even in the face of all the challenges that we do face and the uncertainties that we do face, that we are able to come out stronger on the other side, I suppose. I don't know if Jonathan agrees on that part. So that's my input.
Yeah. I completely agree with what Alejandra just said. Like she said, when the island is going through an economic problem, and even though we have professors that are highly motivated to do research, we cannot, and we do not have all the appliances or the instruments, all the materials that we need to undergo those research topics. And even though we don't have that, we still are highly motivated and trying to contribute to science however we can. And yeah, and going through these 5 years, I've worked in different disciplines doing research, but it's very important for us, like she said, like Alejandra said, we are very involved with our family and our culture, and we are very united when it comes to other students in our campus, that we try to help each other out as much as we can because of this. And because of the economic problem, maybe, I don't know if it's the same in Mayagüez as it is in Calle, due to the funds that we receive. The building that we have for our laboratories are not the best as well. So there's a lot of change in temperature when we need some experiments that have to be in constant temperature. There's it drifts from the ceiling, and there's other stuff that affects us as well. But we still try to go to see past that and do our best, because we don't have a lot of many options to do research. We cannot afford as a university those expensive materials that other private institutions in the island and the United States can afford. And maybe if we could buy an NMR or other instruments, maybe we can buy the cheapest one with the least specifications, the least accuracy. But we make it work with that. And it's like Alejandro said, if we don't have it, we try to make it hands-on however we can.
Wow. You kind of touched upon the next question that I was wanting to ask, and but I guess if you have more to share, my next question was, Puerto Rico has endured a lot of issues over the past several years with the pandemic, natural disasters, water shortage, struggling economy. And I know that you touched on, like, the impacts that some of these have had on you as a student. What are some things that you want, people to know about this? And but then also, you just mentioned it, that the motivation that you both have to just work with it and work around things and to overcome that adversity. Is there more that you like to share? And I'm especially curious about, over this past year and a half with the pandemic, how that's impacted you as a student, your community, your homeland.
Well, it's the last couple of years have been increasingly more difficult, not only because of what we just mentioned about the economical crisis that comes with Puerto Rico being a colony of the United States. We're the oldest colony in the world. That has its whole own set of issues. But we also had Hurricane Maria in 2017. So we had to start classes about a month after the hurricane. A lot of people didn't have roofs, a lot of people didn't have water, a lot of people did not have electricity. I was blessed to get my electricity back on about a week after the hurricane, because I used to live really close by to the town square. So I lived really close to the mayor's office. So when the mayor got his power back, we got we got the power back. But for example, my brother, he was finishing his degree in electrical engineering. He didn't have electricity till January, and the hurricane was in September. So he would study during the day, and then at night, well, you couldn't really do anything because you didn't have electricity, you didn't have light, you didn't have internet. You couldn't buy groceries, you would have to eat out all the time. So that was an economic impact because we're students. So that was costly. Later, we had, at the beginning of 2020, we had a series of really strong earthquakes which affected the island, particularly what was the southern part of the island. So a lot of structures came down. The earthquakes continued for weeks, even months, if I'm not mistaken. Schools have got destroyed basically, and they haven't been rebuilt. All of that actually happened after we ousted our governor in the summer of 2019. So politically, things were also in a turmoil. So it was very difficult to handle that. After Maria, the aid was slow and the government was not great with that. So when the earthquakes happened, it was really a community effort, what we were able to achieve, because we did not trust our government to take care of us, to take care of our loved ones. So, everybody from across the island came and helped those who were more severely affected. so that was all before the pandemic, and then the pandemic hit. What was around March 2020, we went into quarantine. So at least as a graduate student, for me, it was really difficult in the sense that not only I had to learn how to become an online student, I also had to learn how to become an online teacher, because I had 3 courses that I was teaching. I'm a TA for veterinary physiology and animal reproduction, and particularly within what would be animal science. It's really difficult because maybe I can teach you math over a computer, but I can't tell you how to find the cervix on a cow, right? Through the computer. I can't tell you what, this feels like, or how to perform, this type of procedure, or, so that was really, really difficult. Also, it was kind of like, figure it out, there was really we didn't really have an online platform in place that was, institution-wide. I think in Calle, they use the same platform, if I'm not mistaken, which is Moodle, the same one as my OS. Jonathan nods. So, it was really difficult in that sense on how am I going to teach them this, in an efficient and an engaging way. And even now, just this semester, we began what was the whole process of, in-person teaching. And at least my course for animal reproduction, we continued in, with limited people, and, with other adjustments, we continued providing that, because it was so difficult to teach it online, basically impossible. So I was the only one basically still giving in-person teaching in that sense. But, even now, I have students who are 3rd year animal science major, and the first time they interacted with a cow or farm animals was in my class, because they missed out on that opportunity, because maybe they were freshmen when it started, and they missed out. And particularly in my field, to me specifically as a person, I find that it's really important, since it's such a hands-on area of field of study. So it's been sad in that way, and I am hoping that we can move forward, with that. Thankfully, here in Puerto Rico, we have the highest vaccination rate of all the United States, as far as I last heard. So in that sense, we are moving in the right direction. So hopefully, things will be back to normal sooner than later. But, also, as Jonathan was saying, it was also really hard when it came to research, because, I had to continue, going, animals, live animals, you have to go, you have to keep going to the farm, even if the whole world stopped, you still have to go to work, which was okay, because I wasn't, fully close up in my house, but that was a challenge. And for example, there was one of my equipments that I was going to be using for my thesis project. It became faulty, and we couldn't find any technicians that could come work with it. So I had to restructure my entire thesis project and not use it, just figure out some other way to do the same measurements. So that's also what I mean. I think this word is really overused here, but we've had to really, really work on being resilient. That really is the word. Not only as people, but also as students and as teachers. So.
Yeah, adding from that, when Hurricane Maria struck in 2017, I was barely a freshman in my undergrad studies, so that was my freshman year. So that when Hurricane Maria struck, it was really impacting for me. That was my first time experiencing a hurricane, especially a Category 5 hurricane. It's not only just a hurricane, it was like the most intense hurricane. And being unavailable to study at the university was really hard. And my grades got an impact because of that, because I was still adapting from high school to my university, and getting those new study habits to study for university classes instead of the study habits I had for high school. And uh, other than Alejandra, I first received water instead of electricity because the mayor in my city had like a kiosk in front of my house, and he needed water. And I was blessed to have water. I think after 3 weeks the hurricane struck, but I was without electricity for, I think, 2.5 months. And it was really impacting for the island, especially those cities in the middle of the island, which is mostly very tropical, and it has a lot of trees in the mountains. And there were some cities that had no electricity for a year. So that was really impacting for those students who were specifically in those cities. And after Hurricane Maria, like Alejandro said, we had to go back to the university when most of the things were stable. At least the university had water. Not at the beginning, so we had to go out of the university to use the bathrooms and then come back. But in that beginning of the university, we couldn't study mostly at night because we didn't have electricity still, mostly in our dorms. So we had to go to the university and use the electric plants. I don't know if you say that correctly in English, to charge
Generator.
a generator. Thank you.
Generator.
To use our computers and tablets so that we could study over the night. But it was tiring because we had no electricity, so it was very difficult to read at night. So most of the students prefer to read over the day with the little available time that we had between classes. And after that, we managed to, thankfully, we received electricity very quickly in the university. After that, it was almost like 3 months at Calle. I don't know the situation in Maya West. It was almost 3 months without electricity. And after that, then everything got settled. But then the earthquake struck. We felt it in Calle. We had to even leave the buildings. We had to make a protocol after the first earthquake, which was the strongest one. It was felt almost the entire island felt that earthquake. And I remember perfectly because I was taking a quiz from my organic chemistry class. So we were all concentrated on that quiz, and it was like, oh no. And we all wanted to keep going, and the professor was like, no, get under the chairs. And so it was very impacting and very scary because of that, because our campuses, I can speak for both Maya West and Calle, our buildings are not very new at all. So there's that added tense and stress that the buildings could collapse. And most of there were some buildings that had cracks after the earthquake. So that was very difficult as well. But after that, we managed to get settled in again. But then the pandemic struck approximately March 2020. And at least for Calle, the first 2 to 3 weeks, we didn't have any classes because the professors had to take some orientations on how to give online classes, how to adapt all the classes to an online modality. And that also was very difficult for us to get adapted to because we were already taking in-person classes. So that transition was very difficult as well. And the most impact was on the research that we had in the university, because most of the research we had is in chemistry or biology. And because of that, the laboratories, we could not enter the university for anything. Only the professors could. So at least I could manage through, because in my university, I do mostly computational chemistry work. So my professor gave us a computer that we could use the necessary programs to continue our research. But those who had organic chemistry researches, biology researches, they had to pause all of that. And that gave an impact, because if they were planning to publish a paper soon or publish all the data, then they had to pause all those plans because of the pandemic. But now, at least the University of at Calle, we're the university with most classes in person. So we have 98% of classes in person right now. And it was mostly based on the questionnaire for students in my university of what they preferred when taking classes. And it really did an impact the pandemic, because most of the students were tired already of taking online classes and not being able to make the experiments in the laboratories hands-on. And the laboratories were like taking a 4-hour class. It wasn't an experience at all. So we had that, and like Alejandra said, Puerto Rico managed to quietly, like the news said, quietly become the island with the most vaccinations compared to all the states in the United States. And when my university started classes in person, the director for health and security, he told us that 99.8% of the students were vaccinated in my university and staff. So most of the students were vaccinated already. So we all were comfortable going back with the necessary precautions, and that was very impacting. And we managed to pass that and get settled in again, and managed to come back to university all happy, because we were happy to go back after that long year and a half of taking online classes.
Wow, thank you both for sharing. Oh, go ahead.
I wanted to add, you know, a more recent also, continuing on the electricity. Recently, we've also been having a lot of power outages across the island. Just a few weeks ago, I would have electricity for 4 hours, and then I would have no electricity for 12 hours, and then we'll come back 4 hours, and then so it's still ongoing. The power grid situation, it's still very frail. So it's an ongoing situation that we're facing right now, as well as on the economic and political part. Just a couple of days ago, the PC 1003 was signed into law, which has been affecting not only the university's budget as a state university, cutting our funds even more. If I'm not mistaken, it's being cut by 500 million, our budget, which would leave us in a very, in an even more difficult state. So actually, currently the University of Puerto Rico, we have a saying, 11 campuses, one university, because we have 11 campuses. And we're currently, Mayagüez, actually, we are currently in a strike. We've been on strike for about over a week now. And that was a decision that the student body took in a student assembly last week, and we are currently in that situation. I know other campuses. I'm unsure if Calle is on strike at the moment.
And adding on that, like first with the power outage, like Alejandro said, here in Calle, the students usually every single night for 4 hours straight, we didn't have electricity, and every single night. So it will be from like 8 until 12, like that sort of things, without electricity. And going on that, the government is trying to cut us off, and that having the governor sign that law, it will imply in closing campuses and getting rid of our accessible education that we have right now to the students who are less economically stable and have less funds that could apply to universities. And as Maya West, this Monday, Calle decided also to go on strike, an indefinite strike um, until everything, at least we need to manage to accomplish something, and we have some conditions as well. And we are currently right now in strike, and when we finish this webinar, I'm going to join my other student body to keep sorry
Putting the pressure.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, the government isn't helping us at all to keep moving forward in that sort of point. Like Alejandro said, it's 500 million less that we have for all the campuses, because it's not like, oh, 500 million less on one campus. It affects all. And having that law signed, it already implies closing one of the universities, which is Utuado. And that's the only University of Puerto Rico that a campus that has an agriculture program of all the campuses. So there was a major impact in that area, because there was a point in Puerto Rico that we were trying to motivate more students and motivate more people to study agriculture, because we have a lot of land, we have a lot of agriculture here in Puerto Rico. And right now, currently, that's the only university that has that program. So they're trying to close that down and close one of the, I think, important programs in the university. It's not the only one, but it's still important because we have a lot of agriculture that we can enjoy and distribute from Puerto Rico.
And I know this has become a little bit more negative than maybe it was expected, but and maybe Jonathan would agree with me. We are grateful for opportunities like this where we can speak to other people, so that they understand how important the state's university actually is and how important it is to defend it. I'm a third generation student. My grandparents studied at the state university, and that's what was, the accessibility of, being able to afford the state university is what was able, what made them able to pursue their careers, what made them able to send my mom to college. My father is he was first generation on his side. They both also studied at Maya West. My brother is a Maya West graduate. I'm a Maya West graduate. It's really important for us as Puerto Ricans to defend the university and to highlight the importance of what we do here, and to have that support from not only the people here in this country, but also in the United States and everywhere in the world. It's really important to us. So I'm very grateful for this opportunity to be able to speak about this. It's saddening, right? That's what we're highlighting, the struggles that we're facing, but also I think that they do deserve the visibility of, all that we are actually achieving, in spite of all of that. So, yeah.
No,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah, I appreciate both of you just sharing. And I think that it's really important that this information, get out to more people so that people can really get a clearer picture of, what it is really like and what students have gone through and what they're experiencing right now. Because that all is so important. And I guess just real quickly, how many students are currently enrolled at the University of Puerto Rico campuses collectively? Is there a number? Do you have an idea?
I don't know collectively, at least in University of Puerto Rico at Calle, there's 2,500 students currently enrolled in the university.
In Maya West, we're about 13,000.
And I'm pretty sure collectively it's probably a large number, but just the idea of a budget cut in at that amount and how much of an impact that can make and will have, which kind of points me to my next question. I know that Alejandra had mentioned the difficulties of really kind of going further in studies in Puerto Rico, if if you're wanting to continue your studies, graduate level and beyond. What is it like for STEM students? And I know that the job market probably is not as good there either. I'm just curious, and I want to hear both perspectives of what you feel STEM is like currently like in your country, and I'm talking about again like with the programs being able to move on, but then also finding jobs, a job and that job security, all of that.
Yeah,
No, no, go ahead.
okay. Yeah, currently, at least I know that every university has a certain amount of professors that are doing research and are contributing to STEM. Right now, as in graduate studies, only the University of Puerto Rico at Miami West and the University of Puerto Rico Medical School are the only in Rio Piedra, sorry, are the only three campuses that have graduate studies. Alejandra can correct me on that. Um, and that's very eye-opening because even though there's a lot of students that are interested in STEM and there isn't a lot of space to do that, but we still have managed, like I said before, to keep being motivated to apply and go through these experience. And this is why we are so grateful to have these opportunities to speak out and reach other people so that they could know and see what we're going through. Because right now, me participating in this panel is very, very helpful to for other people to understand what we're going through. And like Alejandra said, it's a very repeated word, but we have to be resilient because that's what makes us keep moving forward. Without that, we will be giving up, and that's not how we are. We are always trying to keep being motivated and moving on. And hopefully, this budget cut won't affect that much the graduate studies. I hope because we don't have a lot, and that's why we are very grateful for the opportunities that we are offered, not only participating in this conference, but other conferences as well, and participating in and like in this conference especially that there's several open tables, and there were a lot of universities in the United States that are trying to improve and increase diversity in STEM. And that helps us a lot because we can also consider those universities, and that will be very helpful for us. Because even though if we decide to go to the United States to study and not study in Puerto Rico, we can later on use those studies to come back and help other students. Right now, I work as a mentor at my university. So I work mostly with high school students, freshman students, and second year students. And I always try to emphasize when I'm talking to them about research. I always tell them like apply to research, apply to internships. And those are very grateful experiences because like we said before, we don't have a lot of equipment that we could study from here. So having those experiences that we could learn those other techniques and use more occupied laboratories and instruments that could be used here, but we can't because of the funds. That's very helpful for us. And it also, it's like I always say, it also helps you decide what your future career will be like, because through experiences and through everything that we go through is what makes us decide what we want to be in the future. Personally, for me, I want to continue in STEM and become a future mentor to undergrad students as well. And it's because of that, because most students here in Puerto Rico, I've noticed a lot that high school in all high schools, they don't provide that much information about opportunities like that. And most students including even third years, fourth years, they go through all their years in the university and they're like, what are research internships? Which really impact me because there isn't a lot of motivating students and promoting doing research and all the opportunities that not only here, because we have a client program that students from United States can apply here in Puerto Rico as well to do research in the summer in the Rio Piedras campus. So we do have internships as well here, but we have all those opportunities, and students are not being given all the talks and lectures that we need to understand research. Because I knew about the RISE program in my university because I studied in a specialized school in science and mathematics, only because of that. Because I asked other students in the university, like, did you know about the program? Did you know that you could apply? Did you know that you have these opportunities? Did you know that you could do this, do that? And they all said, no, in my high school, we don't receive those types of orientations. And it's very eye-opening. And that's why I joined and became a mentor so that I could help those students that come from high school so that they know all the possible opportunities that they have. We have an institute of investigations here in Calle that also gives a lot of opportunities and talks about these research opportunities that we could apply to and do exchange in another university, which is very helpful for us because it helps us. Like I said, everything helps us, and we could take advantage of all of that.
Adding to the RICE program that you were talking about, I actually learned about the RICE program. I was already in my second year of my master's when I learned about it. So, I do agree with you on that. More people should be involved in, in sharing what opportunities there are for, studying STEM from a young age, so people know what is available to them if they are interested in pursuing studying those fields. And I think we can divide this in the student part and then the career part. As a student, we already established that it is difficult, that there is not that much emphasis on studying science beyond, the regular, be an engineer, be a doctor, because that's it, right? So, even if you enter the biology department, most people, what you just keep hearing is medicine, so there's not that much emphasis, put on what research can actually do for you and what it can do for the country, for the scientific community, and how that can affect, beyond, obviously medicine, does have an impact in the community, but research also does, and it is important to start visualizing research, I suppose, not just within, the four walls of our laboratory, but how we can put our research to use so that we can have, a positive impact in our community and make things better for everybody. And as far as the career part goes, here on the island, it's, I did 2 bachelors because one was probably not going to be enough for me to get a job. That's not cool. I don't regret doing it. I would have liked not having to do that. I would have liked not having to have a backup plan, because maybe agriculture or animal science, which is what I mostly enjoyed, would not have such, an out, as far as job opportunities, So I studied microbiology in case I had to go work at a pharmacy, because also here in Puerto Rico, pharmaceutical companies don't pay taxes. So, even insulin gets manufactured here, it gets sent to the United States, and then it gets sent back here, with all the taxes, and then sold back to us at a higher price. So there, as far as research goes, you would have to go into like a private company, or a pharmaceutical company and maybe working on like research development, things like that, like Abbott, Johnson & Johnson, so chemistry majors could go on that, biology majors, microbiology majors, but there's so much more to STEM, right? And there's so many other fields within STEM that I don't think maybe have as much of opportunities as those in order to pursue a career on the island. So it's very sad, we have the diaspora, we have so many of us that are having to leave because there are no job opportunities, or maybe we have the job opportunities, but it's not, a living wage that we are, going to be okay, so, because it sucks, it sucks studying so much to then, not being able to pay rent, not being able to, buy groceries or living austerity. It's emotionally difficult, and a lot of us have to make the very difficult choice to leave. But I also, adding to what Jonathan said, generationally, I think, which I find really inspiring, and it gives me hope, I suppose. Generationally, I think we are on that same page, that we want to pursue these careers in STEM and do this research and become these people that we wanted to have and we did not have in our own life, maybe for other generations, and maybe we leave, but I think most of us, even when making the choice of leaving, it's always with the thought, I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna make it better, and I'm gonna help the future generations. I'm gonna help the university. I'm gonna come back and make it better. That's I think what we as Puerto Ricans and as generation want for our country.
Sure. No, I totally understand that. I get that. This has been just an amazing time. It's been with both of you, and I just truly appreciate. I'm just learning so much. I feel as though I only just knew surface, right? Just and not being able to really truly see everything else going on underneath. So again, thank you for both for sharing. We have about 10 minutes left, and I'm going to go ahead and start wrapping this up. But I'm just want to kind of get your thoughts on how much your culture affects your daily life and the things that you do, your decisions. And I know that Alejandra, you had just kind of finished up, sharing that a little bit about that, but in terms of what it means to you, and I know that we say resilient, and I still think that it holds true for a lot of people, a lot of Indigenous people. But I just want to kind of get some closing thoughts on connecting that culture, but then also looking at the adversity and what lies ahead for both of you, because I know that you both are so deeply passionate about the things that are happening in terms of turning things around and things getting better. But how does that impact you as you look ahead too? So
sure. Starting with how we as a culture affects us, we have what I like most about my university and our culture in Puerto Rico is that we try to motivate each other, and we have that, we make family bonds even though we're just friends. And that helps us a lot to keep moving forward, because not everyone can say that the whole island came together, students, social workers, electricity workers, every single person to kick out the president, the governor, because we didn't feel that he represented us. And not everyone can say that. That's our culture. We stick together. And like Alejandra said, we always, when we go to the United States, we always have in our mind, I'm gonna come back and make it better and improve our education. And that's exactly what, right now I'm currently applying to graduate school. So even though I have in my list graduate schools in Puerto Rico, I am also applying to the United States. And even if I go to the United States, I will always have Puerto Rico in my heart. And other people that are currently studying in the United States can agree as well, that when they are in the States, every single time that they see a Puerto Rican, it's like, oh my God, hi, how are you? It's all hugs and kisses, and we always come together, and we always greet each other, because it feels nice having someone that from our cultural background, that understands what we're going through, not only here, but in the United States as well.
Yeah, adding to what Jonathan just said, I think particularly in the diaspora, that is something that's really common, especially because here in Puerto Rico we speak Spanish, but you know, so being in the United States, studying in the United States, I think you know, somebody that speaks your language, it's always nice, you know. So I feel like Puerto Ricans tend to find each other and agglomerate, and it's like, oh, where are you from? And also being such a small island, and Jonathan, I'm sure will agree, anywhere you go, you know somebody that knows your uncle, that knows your aunt, and oh, I study with your mom, I know her from college, everywhere you go. So it does feel like you have all these people backing you up, right? And even from maybe families that only this is the first person that's going to college, and the whole town knows, the whole town is like, oh, dude, you're studying in Mayagüez, you're studying in Calle, you're studying in Rivera, oh, he's doing this, and everybody knows, and everybody's supporting you, because everybody is family in that sense. And I think that's something that the diaspora continues, in the United States or wherever they may be, right? And that's something that I've seen, with my friends that have left, that it's a recurring thing. So culturally, it's very nice, and it's also what makes it so difficult when you have to make the choice to leave. So.
All right. Well, we are at the end of our webinar for today. And for those of you that are viewing this, if you enjoyed this webinar, we just want to share that you can find more webinars and upcoming webinars at our website at sacnus.org/webinars. And so again, this concludes our visit with Alejandra and Jonathan, and we thank you both for taking time for joining us today, and we hope that you all have a wonderful rest of your day. Thanks again.